Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. I just want a positive basis. Let's start it out. I'm sure many of you heard about the capsized ship in the Japanese Sea. There was one Filipino survivor. He's currently in a hospital in Japan. From last information, he is doing okay and is getting ready to be repatriated once he's a little bit better. They actually found someone else who was adrift at sea. He is also alive. Seemed just from the reports, he may have been a bit dazed from the dehydration and heat. He was being treated. He was walking, so he was good. So that's good. The Japan and Philippines authorities are still working together. They are trying to make sure that the situation is safe for everyone. I don't know what other efforts they're taking. It sounds like they might still be combing the area just to kind of gather what's been going on, but more information will be coming as that does happen. So now on to the bigger news. Unfortunately, the Foreign Affairs Secretary, Teddy Boy Locsin, he himself has said that we need to not regulate Netflix. Now, some of you may have heard that the Philippines authorities are looking at censoring Netflix and some other streamable services. As the Secretary Teddy Locsin said, if it's on Netflix, the whole world is watching it. It's pretty general, broad, movies. But of course, the censorship has actually just been a long line of everything that's happened over the past few years. Duterte himself, through the government, has issued violations and lawsuits against Rappler, which is an independent free news organization run by Maria Ressa. She has been subject of numerous fines, and she herself has had to bail herself out multiple times because of the Duterte's administration launching these complaints against her. So, obviously they're baseless, or at least, they're just attacking her because she's releasing, damaging evidence. Anyone who can post bail 8 times and still be considered good to leave is obviously not that much of a threat, at least to society. Now, to the people in charge, of course, news organization that speaks their mind and doesn't hold back is probably going to be the one that's most necessary. This actually came up, of course, throughout this year with ABS-CBN losing their license. Essentially, Duterte told them to go off air, and of course, previously they have criticized Duterte and spoken freely, and Duterte's administration just cannot allow that to happen. With that national security law that they passed, a lot of people are actually in danger of being arrested for simply criticizing the Filipino president or the government. So it's pretty broad. It's pretty close to the U.S. Patriot Act in form. Of course, a lot of those things are. So unfortunately, Filipinos do need to watch out because their rights are being trampled on. Even the ability to protest or to assemble for protest is being curbed because they're claiming COVID, which of course it makes sense. But if you've seen some of these protests, they are following physical distancing, 2 meters, and so the only reason to threaten arrest is, of course, to push this national security thing. So they have mass arrested people. So unfortunately, you cannot protest in large groups. If you're going to do any kind of protest, you basically are going to have to carry a sign by yourself and walk up and down the street or something. But if you're with groups, you're just asking for trouble from Duterte's government. Obviously, he's made the threats of saying shoot them if they do not listen. I don't know. I can't say how effective that has been. It seems like the police killings have spiked since Duterte has started. With the encouraging people, shooting people. I don't know what kind of president does that. It's something, of course. That's probably part of the reason he wants to suppress the free speech. He's been so in line with China, it seems like he's just handing things over for China. Once China is finished with Hong Kong and Taiwan, Philippines is, of course, next. with the Philippine Sea already being taken over by Chinese naval forces, it doesn't appear that Filipinos will have much of a choice in this matter. It may take 10, 20 years, but China operates long term, and so this is just going to continue going. So make sure to do not follow, be very, very careful. Be very, very careful when you're online. They're using all kinds of bots and AI to amp. So basically, what they do is they use a bot to push fake information. That fake information will be posted on Facebook, on Twitter, on Reddit, Instagram, WeChat, all these different places. And then what happens is they will use other bots to come in and comment and upvote and like and share and different things like that. And so after a while, you've got enough bots liking this, people start to see it and they think, oh, look at all these, there's a lot of likes here, so I better check this out. It's fake. A lot of this stuff is fake. You should not get your news from Facebook. Seriously, you maybe if you see like a video of like a police shooting, or like when they shot that military guy a few months ago, that's one thing if that's shared there. But for the most part, I would not trust anything that happens on Facebook. I realize you may live on it and constantly talk to people on it, but that doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. Just remember, anyone can share anything for any purpose. Now, great examples, of course, is Senator Leila de Lima. She was arrested for quote-unquote drug trafficking, where she was repeatedly accused of drug trafficking and helping just basically drugs to enter the country. The interesting, of course, is Duterte himself has been accused of trafficking drugs and working with foreign intelligence agencies in his own country. So, accusing senators of doing what he's doing is just projecting. It's basically saying, hey, don't look at me doing this. It's actually her this whole time. Like, okay. Obviously, there's very little way to prove that Duterte himself was involved with the drug trafficking or foreign intelligence agencies. You just have to wait for that kind of proof to come up. Obviously, if you're one of the people in the know, that's one thing. But this is where we're at. So basically, the best thing you can do is just keep speaking freely. And speaking of which, it's somewhat related. I'll reverse back to this in a moment. COVID. As of August 17th, there were 53,000 active cases in the Philippines. 2% were either severe or critical. 2%. Okay. Don't believe that nonsense of it's only 1%, first off. Second, don't believe that just because 53,000 people were known to be infected, that there aren't others. Remember, many people cannot afford to get tested, and many they can't even travel to go get tested. Or they live in remote areas where it's just so difficult and there's no testing sites around there. What are they going to do? They don't have the money. And so it's just very important to be careful, because it's really, with the spikes happening, it's really starting to look like Philippines is going to go down through another shutdown. Philippines already had one of the toughest restrictions in the world. No other country has gone to such lengths to stop people from moving, to stop people from gathering. It's really quite fascinating and scary just how much the Philippines have been controlled through this. Korea, of course, had some of the most stringent operations, but they did not shut down at all. There were no shutdowns in Korea. And so, maybe in a few specific areas because of that crazy church sect that was intentionally spreading people sickness. But for the most part, it's just Philippines that have really been able to shut everything and control everyone's movements. The voter registration is opened up again on September 1st because of a community quarantine. This was for the National Capital Region, Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal. They actually they were not able to do voter registration from August 17th to the 31st. Think about that. You could not go vote, or you cannot register to vote because of the current administration. Now, again, I get the need for maintaining the infections. At the same time, the Philippines was the most strict country in the world. And not only that, but with these explosions in infection, the government failed. Okay, there were plenty of chances they could have taken, but when you see, when you say, okay, shut things down, and now instead of having 10 people waiting at a bus stop, you have 100 people waiting at a bus stop. People are waiting 7 hours. There is no social distancing there. It's the same with any of these things where people have to gather for food. Are you kidding me? Beforehand, waiting in line in a grocery store took 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe, depending on where you're at and how busy it is. Waiting in line now, you're waiting there with the same people for hours. To say that it's healthier this way is completely ignoring the reality. You are breathing in that air longer, you are around these people longer, and you are more exposed the entire time. This is not something that should be taken lightly. And so even though people can't protest in large numbers, because of the rest of COVID or even the threat of, getting ill, you need to be safe, but really everyone should do everything they can to register to vote. Be prepared for more lockdowns and disruption because it's coming. I can almost guarantee that is happening. So be ready, register to vote early, and don't let the government push you around. Obviously, there's only so much you can do, and I'm not inciting you to of course, riot or to do anything like that, but freedom is freedom, and so just look at your Constitution. What does it guarantee you? If it guarantees freedom of movement, freedom of speech, that's what you should have. That's what you should aim for. I hope everyone stays safe. Please be careful out there, and take care of yourselves.